Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newscasts. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Well, hello, Jeff. My name's Ian Bagg, and I'm in Terrace, British Columbia. Where are you this week?
Yeah, I'm right across the bridge from you.
Oh, you're right across the bridge. I'm still in Long Beach. But you're up in Terrace. This episode is going to be called the Terrace episode because we have no guest. We're going to go over the league really in 32 minutes. We're going to go over the league, and we're going to talk a little bit about Terrace. Let's start it up with us going back and forth last night while watching the old Vancouver Canucks game, the football game, 7-6 score.
That's right. It actually was almost as high scoring as the Monday night game between Tampa Bay and New Orleans there for a while, but crazy. I don't know. It's just the new NHL, I guess, which is,
I guess it's
I
more
think
exciting.
you can just kind of throw everything out the window. I mean, when you get down to the nitty gritty in the playoff times, you know, you kind of still have the top teams kind of rising to the top. I don't know, right? Top teams rising to the top.
Cream rising to the top.
That's well spoken. But
Back in Terrace, District 88.
yeah, that's right. And you know, I did a walk yesterday, and I know it's District 82 now, but it'll always be District 88 to us. But School District 88.
They
But
lost
Vancouver.
They lost 6 districts up there. Now we're down to 80.
Well, I think they went to 82 for a while. They've dropped to 80. So yeah.
goodness. Oh, knowledge is just losing up there.
I don't know. So anyways, I took a picture of your watch. I took this picture yesterday afternoon up here, and
I guess we should tell people before we continue on with the hockey.
Yeah.
I've got a picture from the internet of the old bridge, but you've actually got a picture behind you of the old bridge being worked on right now, taken yesterday.
that's
Tell
correct.
people about-
Yesterday.
Tell people
So,
about the old bridge.
You can see if you're looking, let me see, it's over my left shoulder.
Yep.
You can see there's a kind of a canopy coming on. So the old bridge, they shut it down in July, but just before Riverboat Days, so no one could go out there and watch the fireworks.
Mhm.
And now they're going to work on it until next October. So it'll be ready this time next year, just before now. So anyways, I was down there yesterday. Got a pretty big crew working on it. And so I took this picture along with some other pictures, and it looks like a nice, beautiful day, which it was until you look over my right shoulder and see the river's getting frozen, and it's quite cold. We're supposed to get snow today. But anyways, I think Ian's picture was taken in the summer, and mine was taken when it was minus 10 or 15 outside. So
Well, if you look at the mountains, you wouldn't know it was winter.
no, you wouldn't. And actually, you look over my left shoulder at the rocks there, you'd think it was a summer day, but it might just be my photography skills.
Might be just you, just not very good at taking pictures.
Yeah,
I
so
love
it beautiful. And of course, one thing that people from the north realize, but maybe you don't realize if you're watching from somewhere else, is we're getting near the shortest day of the year. So when it's sunny out, the
December
sun-
21st, right?
Yeah, I think it's the 21st. So the sun starts quite far southeast in the sky, moves its way, and like it's really low on the sky here during the day, and then it gets dark around 4, I guess. But when the sun's out, it's unbelievable. But when the
Mhm.
clouds are over today, you notice the days are a little bit shorter than maybe you're used to being in other places in the world. But up
I
here in the
remember-
northern hemisphere,
I
It,
remember growing up there when they said the suns are out, the buns were out, and all the girls would take and wear their bikinis down by the river. And
it's beautiful though. I will say that. Just a little chilly. Hey, and you see, I got see the jacket I'm wearing today? Got
oh,
your
nice.
jacket on. Yeah. Hey, so I got a funny story to tell. Okay. Because we don't have a guest today, so I'm gonna pretend like I'm your guest. So here's what I was thinking. I got this double layered jacket. You can pull it inside out. It's beautiful for the winter, but I didn't feel like wearing it in the Vegas airport, right? So I put a pullover top on and this nice jacket you were so kind to give me a couple weeks ago, or last week
I'm a
in
gifter.
Long Beach. Yeah, you are. You're a giver. So I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. And I checked my bag, which I never do. I never check bags, but I checked my bag. And I'm going to, when I have to claim it in Vancouver to go through connections and just put it on the next conveyor belt to go to Terrace, I'm going to pull my winter jacket out.
Right.
So I walk through and they've totally streamlined what you do in Vancouver now.
It goes right through.
So I walk through, I give my card that I printed out, you know, I go through the customs thing, I give it to the guy, the customs official, and I'm walking to the
Transfers.
I'm walking, to the transfers, I guess. And I get about halfway down this hall and I don't go through security. I'm a long ways away from where I would have got my bag. And I'm like, I guess I'm not going to pick up my bag and get my jacket. So now I'm stuck wearing this jacket that Ian gave me.
Oh my God.
That does a good job when it's you're in Long Beach or Vegas.
Yeah.
And I got a pullover. So the next time I saw my bag was on the baggage claim carousel in Terrace. So I grab a gal. Oh yeah, I grab a gal from Air Canada. I said, hey, you know, after I was in the airport, because I had to wait about 3-4 hours. So after about an hour of grabbing something to eat, I'm like, hey, just a question. I checked my bag from Vegas. I said, I don't have to pick it up here, right? It goes right through. She goes, no, it goes right through. I go, that's beautiful. And it is. Right. It's the most seamless thing in the world going through customs in Vancouver now. If you're connecting in Canada, it's awesome. So I got out of the airport, off the airplane in Terrace, and I bundled up as much as I could. But yeah.
And just to let people know, when you get off the plane in Terrace, you're right on the tarmac. It's not like there's a bridge going into the airport. You're freezing. The wind's coming right. It's on the top of the mountain there in Terrace, and it's windy and it's cold. And surprised you're not just lying in bed crying right now.
I had to laugh. I outsmarted myself this year coming up here, and it's been great though. I couldn't go out. I'd like to go for a walk around. Yesterday, I'll send some pictures. We'll put some pictures up, but I love going for a walk around here. They got some great trails and it was beautiful, but I couldn't go a couple days ago because of the wind. So it was like -15. I don't know what the wind chill, -20s, -25, but yesterday was unbelievable. And today is.
Did you go
I went
along
away.
the,
it's awesome.
Did you go along the trail out towards Prince Rupert? Did you walk?
Yes,
on
I went around there. I looked for your name.
You didn't see my name?
No, you know what? I didn't look that hard because it was getting cold. I went and walked for 1 hour. I'll see if I can find it today.
You don't care.
Actually, your name is further. You parked the cars. I didn't remember seeing your name. Are you on the board with all the music?
Yep, I'm on that one. Yeah.
Oh, I looked at that yesterday. Huh?
I'm at the bottom.
I'll take a picture of it.
Ian Bag, comedian.
Okay, I'll take a picture of it for you. I'll send it. So
I love it.
Yeah. So anyways, so one nice thing about it, it's beautiful. It's nice to be back up here. Going to get some snow here in the next couple of days, but we got a chance to watch some hockey. And of course, getting back to the game you and I talked about last night was Vancouver and Montreal. And it was just incredible to watch the lack of defense, but the exciting offense that was in that game. It was 4-2 going into the third period. It ended up 6-6, 7-6 in overtime for Vancouver. Montreal got off to a 4-0 start. And we watched history last night. It was the only third time in Canucks history that they came back from being down 4 goals in a game. And the other 2 times were 1971 and 1973. So pretty exciting. Yeah.
The Vancouver Canucks are just like me, all offensive.
Yeah.
That do nothing but offend. It's interesting. So they started the one guy and he just, and I'm blanking on his name. Why I'm blanking on his name right now, but I am
Spencer Martin.
Yeah, Spencer. Yeah. I always want to call him Smartin for some reason. But
Spencer.
Yeah, he seemed really nervous in that game, and it was obvious that he was not sticking around long for that. But and then this guy that's got 33 games in the National League comes in, decides to stop all the rest of the pucks going by him until the third period, and then he let in 3 more or 2 more.
Two actually played pretty well, but I think more than anything, it's kind of shows where the league is going, how you're never really out of the game. Because a couple weeks ago we watched Los Angeles and Seattle, right? So Los Angeles and Seattle, what did that end up? Was that 8-7 or 9-8?
So yeah,
remember that got
8-7 or
overtime?
9-8. I can't remember, but it was quite a high scoring affair, and it was scored in overtime again, right? Wasn't that an overtime one?
Yeah, and or sorry, was that Ottawa? No, who was? Yeah, it was Seattle and LA. That was a crazy
Seattle
game.
and LA, yeah.
But then the other night, Minnesota was up 5-1 on Dallas, and Dallas came back and I think that went into a shootout. Minnie ended up beating them in a shootout. But back in the day, back when I played, okay, so I hate to take this and slow it right down.
But more, Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the day, but say 10, 15 years ago, maybe, and definitely longer than that. If you would have had a 4-0 lead, the game would have deteriorated into a complete gong show. Or when they got that kind of lead, you might have got a goal or two and made it 4-2, but they would have just clutched and grabbed and, left wing lock and all this other stuff, defensive. Now you don't see that. There was it was a scrum last night. Shen made a big hit on one of the Canadians, and
their first
I think his name is. He's a young, tough kid they got. He came over. They kind of got a little bit of a scuffle, but then there was no real scrums. There was nothing, and the game just carried on. And the next thing you knew, you had this back and forth game that ended up 7-6. So the one thing, I don't let people like good hard hockey, and 7-6 might drive some people crazy. But one thing it does bring is excitement, and also as a fan,
absolutely,
you kind of know your team's never out of it, right?
The stands were going nuts. It was going nuts in the stands like that, and people, you seen their faces after the game. They're all just standing there, like blown away with what they just seen. So you got to look at it like that. You always talk about it's entertainment. Those people got their entertainment in the last night.
Well, and you're paying to see the best players on either team. And so Horvat was unbelievable last night. Vancouver Pettersson was flying around. Quinn Hughes, Miller, Suzuki, Caulfield for the Canadians.
Miller loves to do a draw pass to nobody. Oh my God.
There's and then some of the other guys got involved last night, and the entertainment value shoots through the roof. And everyone says the NHL is a 3-2 league. Maybe maybe it's a little bit more exciting as a 4-3 league. I don't think you're going to see 7-6 every night, but maybe the NHL is a little better.
Seeing a lot of 4-5.
Yeah, I mean, and we might be headed into another kind of ascent to a lot more offense in the league, which I think is exciting.
Yeah, right now it's goalies are just trying to make one more stop than the other ones. They're not trying to shut it out anymore. Like it seems like goalies are learning again. I've noticed that their equipment looks a little different this year. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that their pads are really thin now?
I was going to say their pads and their gear looks a lot thinner the more goals that go by them. There's no question about that. But players aren't afraid to take it to the top of the crease anymore. Like the physicality is not in the game like it used to be. And so guys, they're not worried about going in front of the net and taking a cross check in the side of the neck or in the face anymore. Like Pettersson, it was 3-on-3 in overtime. He walked the puck right to the front of the net to score. And then Josh Anderson, big, strong guy, got a step, walked it, earlier. And I believe that was in the, I don't know if it's in the second period. It might have been the second period. He walked it right to the top of the crease. Didn't even think twice about it. No, he's a big, strong guy, tough kid. But you're seeing your more skilled guys do that. And one of the arguments always was, especially like when Sidney Crosby and these guys came into the league, is we're not letting them play. We're not getting an ability to see what these guys can do. Now, a guy like Crosby's been able to stand the test of time. And I mean, if you watched him, I watched him play against Vegas the other night. in this new style of game, and McDavid and the McKinnons and all these guys, the Pasternaks, they just thrive. And Jack Hughes out in New Jersey. So there's still a couple scraps here and there, but the game definitely looks like it's trending towards more offense. And maybe, like I said, we're in a 4-3 league now versus a 3-2. That's going to create excitement. It's going to create more ebbs and flows in the game, and it's going to create more momentum changes. And we saw, I don't know, how many you think last night? 10, 15 of them in the Montreal-Vancouver game was crazy.
Carrie fell asleep and then woke up. She said, this isn't the same game, is this? That was what was happening when I fell asleep. I'm like, have another glass of wine.
Yes. The Prosecco's over there.
I loved it. Let's move on though. Before we move on, I think, you know what I think? I think goaltenders are the ones that are left behind right now, and you'll see them start to catch on. They're gonna have to change the style of that they're playing, because some of the way these guys are scoring on them, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out, and the goals will go down. It'll be just as exciting, but the goals will go down.
Well, I think you're also going to see right now, you're going to see a separation between the top guys, right? And I think of a guy like Hallebuck. You know, he's been unbelievable. A young guy like Ottinger's been really, really good in Dallas this year. The goaltending in New Jersey's been really good.
Vegas with their lefty, their young
Vegas with Logan Thompson's been really good. So those guys that are playing kind of an elite level have been able to help their team separate a bit. You know, they're getting that extra stop, because the chances that these guys are getting are unbelievable. But
we should get Wade Flaherty on here and tell us what they see. You know, we really need a goaltending coach to come in, and because I'm sure some of them are just pulling their hair out. Like Wade is on the other side of it, but if we got why am I blanking on? It's a good morning, blanking on his name. The guy that used to own Mr. Mike's and Terrace.
Bill Ranford.
If we got Bill, I bet you he's pulling his hair out this year. They're just getting shelled. Right.
Well,
here's
that's
their struggle.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things.
They put Cal Peterson on waivers the other day.
But don't you think? Okay, so it's not near as physical. So guys don't have to stop and start as much. There's a lot more spinning away. And I say this with a guy like McDavid, easier said than done, but he's the top of the top. If you impede him, if you slow him down, right? That's your best chance. You got to get into them, and you don't have to run them through the boards, because it's just about impossible to do that. Plus, you know what? The league doesn't want to see that anyways. Nobody does. But you need to slow him down. A Draisaitl's a little bit different. He's kind of more like a Clydesdale. You're not going to slow him down. But a McKinnon, you just have to. Makar, Jack Hughes will use him. Panarin, you got to slow these guys down. There's not as much stopping and starting and physicality as there used to be. And there's a lot more turning, a lot more flow, which is in turn creating more speed and more holes and opportunity to get good chances. And I mean, these guys are sitting right on top of these goalies.
By stopping and starting, you mentioned this the other day, guys are gliding on by, right? There's a little bit of rollerblade feel to the way they're playing. Roller hockey feel to it. They just they don't stop on the dime. They just kind of glide by and then turn.
But here's another one though. Okay, so they glide by. They're playing 82 games. Here's how this schedule is. People talk about the scheduling. Edmonton, for example, they were on the road. They went home to play Florida. Then a night later, they're in Chicago. Then they end up playing against Mini. Then they go home, and I think they get pumped by, who was it? Or they lost last night to Washington, but I think they might have played Montreal in there somewhere.
Played Montreal the night before.
Right. Okay. So, but then you look at Vegas, and I'll give you an example, and all the teams have this. The Western teams really get penalized because they just got so much further to travel most of the time than the Eastern teams for the majority of their games. Vegas was just out east. So they had a day off or 2 days off, and they went out. I think their first game was Columbus, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Boston. They leave Boston last night about 11:30 midnight, land in Vegas this morning at 3 a.m. or whatever time. They play now. The Rangers got to come out west too. They play the Rangers tomorrow night. Then they got a day off. Then they play Philly, and then I don't know who they play. Maybe Anaheim or somebody or Boston. Okay, then they play Boston next Monday. Then they're on the road again. A day off. Winnipeg, day off. Minnesota. What I'm getting at is every team, especially over the holiday season, is playing basically every other day. And so you go, well, what's going on? First of all, yeah, they stay in the best hotels, eat the best food, they fly charters.
Doesn't
I get
matter.
all that.
Doesn't matter.
No. And so you want to ask why you're seeing a little less attention to detail, why you're seeing 6-5, 7-6 games. I think
Well,
some of it's got to do with
maybe you're
some fatigue.
extending
Yep.
the roster and you're holding guys to play not as many games. Kind of, and I'm maybe it's what you do with your rookies, kind of like what they did with Stamkos the first couple of years. They play them and then they rest them too, play them and then rest them too.
I just, it's funny. Everybody, I'll come back to Vancouver. Everyone's all over Vancouver. I looked this afternoon.
Stanley
this
Cup
morning.
team?
Yeah, well, you never know. Everyone is riding this team into the ground. They're only 2 or 3 points out of a
Now they're only
wild
one.
card. I mean, now the team they're chasing, the 2 teams in front of them are Edmonton and Colorado, so you expect
Never heard
them
of
to keep going. But Vancouver's right there, and so you go, well, how about if we do this or do that? The games are so important because, like I said to you last night, is it just sloppy hockey in some cases, or is it parity? You know what I mean? Are these, and are we allowing the skill guys to play and dictate the outcome of these games, which wasn't always the case?
I will bring up something. I'll just put it out there. Did you expand the league too much?
I don't know. I like the league the way it is because the 2 teams that you've expanded recently are 2 of the better teams in the league right now. Like everybody was all over Seattle last year, but look at Seattle. I don't know how Seattle's goaltending is going to hold up. But I will say this: watching them, I don't think they're going anywhere. I like their defense. They're not the biggest puck movers you've ever seen, but they're big and heavy, and they know how to play. You got Oleksiak, you got Larson, Susie. Vince Dunn can move it. Schultz is playing really well for them. And Will Borgen, I think, is the other one I'm thinking of right now. So they got a little country, little rock and roll there. Maybe a little bit of hip hop, I don't know. But up front, they play very fast. They're not the biggest team, but they play very fast. And right now they're getting goaltending. So if you say, oh, we expanded the elite too much, you look at your 2 most recent additions. Vegas has been unreal for the league.
And what I'm saying by expanding is too many games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now you have 32 teams, so now you're thinking, well, we got to play more, and
you got to travel more, and you got to travel more.
Well, and a lot of these teams would probably like to see each other play in division a bit more, because Seattle and Vancouver is 25-minute flight. Vegas over to LA to play Anaheim and the Kings is probably a 40-minute flight right over to go play the Bay Area. Maybe an hour and 10. So this stuff's all really close. Calgary and Edmonton, 2 hours, roughly. But people want to see Sidney Crosby come through.
I think honestly, and I'm gonna put it as the way they're gonna do it. They're gonna have to do it is they're gonna have to do when you travel, you do a back to back, like you do 2 nights there. Is the way.
Yeah, that got shot down for some reason.
It's gonna have to. It's gonna have to. Guys, they're gonna just that extra day of not traveling will help out a person. You just can't take somebody and drive them into the ground because they're being paid. Like they're taking these guys out on their health and their mentality, mental awareness. Because
look at the NFL. They're doing the same thing. Like they're increasing their games, right? The NFL. So I know you say there's only 18 of them.
17 games.
Or is there 17? Okay, so they increased.
But I'm just saying, like there's so 82, and they could raise it to 20, and they'll be fine in the NFL.
No, but you definitely do not see the level of play. I think that people are accustomed to seeing in the NFL. The Thursday night game comes in. So here's the thing. Yeah, there's only so many so many, they added one more game, but like, I'll give you an example and comparing it to NHL. The Buffalo Bills played Sunday. They had to move because of a snowstorm. Then they played Thursday. Then they played the next Thursday. So trying to get all this TV revenue, which is what the NHL is trying to do too, you're trying to stuff all this, 10 pounds of crap or 10 gallons of crap into a 5-gallon bucket. It doesn't always work. I just look at the NHL, getting back there. I think, I get the money side of it, and the NFL doesn't need that extra game to be what they are, but the NHL probably needs those extra 4 games to go from 78 to 82.
It's a very slippery slope to suddenly your baseball and nobody's in your stands.
Yeah, but you know what?
Because you've got too much.
That's not working. They're offering guys 10, 11-year contracts with over $300 million. I mean,
yeah, but for TV, but it's still, it's no longer a live game. Hockey is always going to be the live game. Yeah, I get the TV money, but without a person going to a hockey game, they're not a fan. Like, how many people have said to you, "Oh, I've never been to a live hockey game before. I can't believe how great it is."
Okay, but then if you take 4 or 6 out, which I mean, now does that casual fan get to one of those games? That could be the argument on the other side. And I agree with you. I
no, like you're devil's advocate.
No, and usually it works the other way. Usually you try to take me down, but I like 76 to 78 games. I really do. But here's our problem. We've got 32 teams now, which is great. We've got everybody even, but I think the Battle of Alberta, for example, I know we end up in the West a lot, but I think Calgary and Edmonton play 3. Well, I think Calgary and Edmonton play 3 times this year. I think. But the way the schedules work, because you need to play guys out east twice, right? I mean, if you ask the Eastern Conference, like I'll give you an example. I talked to our good friend of the show who we're going to try and get on one day. He just has to check with legal. But our friend, good old friend, Ryan McGill, assistant coach with the Devils. So a couple of weeks ago, he texted me, and of course, he goes way back with Gerard Gallant. They did an unbelievable job in Vegas, and we were just texting back and forth, and they're off to a great start. And I said to him, I was texting him the night before. I go, "Hey, you guys are playing the Rangers tomorrow. Do you guys go in the day of? You don't go in the night before to play the Rangers, right? Because all they have to do is cross the Hudson River." Right. He goes, "No, we go in the afternoon of." So if you look at it, if you have the Rangers, the Devils, and the Islanders, right, chances that those teams, they'll play each other probably twice. You're looking for 2 home, 2 away, right? The way the schedule works. But even if you play them 3 times and you got to go into their building twice and only host them once, you're home after those games. Like, so they go into Manhattan. I'm guessing around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. They play at 7. They're back home in their own houses by between, I'm guessing, around midnight at the latest.
But I would say there's probably more than that. I would say they're probably home around midnight from Boston, probably at home around midnight from Philadelphia, and at home before midnight, around midnight from Washington.
Right. And so there's the argument on, well, we don't have too many games because certain teams, those East Coast teams in that area there, they're laughing, right? Their travel schedule isn't near as rough as what the teams are out west.
Oh, yeah.
So when the NHL adds more games on, and Toronto and Montreal and New York and Boston want them, because let's not kid anybody, Toronto's only an hour flight. Montreal's not much further from those places. Like, there, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I know when the Knights go over and play in LA and they come back, they're back by close to midnight. Like, a lot of people, someone like yourself, what time you go to bed? A lot of people are late, and if don't go to bed till 1 in the morning or anything, it's not a big deal.
You're home, it's a completely different game. If you're home, if you're back in your bed that night, it's a different, yeah.
But I still think 78 games is the way to go. But then they would have to build, or 76, but then they would have to build their TV revenue to greater lengths. And I think they're doing a good job of it, but I don't see you and I winning that argument. I mean, back in the day, they were at 72 for the longest time, right? But look at your favorite NHL team schedule in December, and you will find, other than Christmas, there is no room in that schedule for if you go on a skid, if you get some injuries. There's not even hardly any places where there's 2 days off. It's play, day off, play, day off, play. And it goes that way because they got to get all these games in.
Well, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know.
Another good talk. We wanted to keep this around 20, 25. I think we're already at 25. So, we want to talk about any other teams before we wrap this up?
I'll talk about Boston really quick.
Can I stop?
No, you can.
I want to talk.
No, you can.
I want to talk about Reeves. I want to talk about Reeves getting traded to Minnesota.
Okay.
And I seen a clip, and he's already taken over that dressing room. Did you notice that? Have you seen that clip?
Oh, for sure. And if you've noticed, they've won about 3 or 4 in a row. So Billy Guerin, saw that maybe what he needed is an infusion for the room and off the ice. I mean, he's going to bring you the infusion on the ice just because of his presence. But I see he got an assist the other night. He's got guys playing bigger and stronger. And I mean, you think about Greenway and Foligno, they already got some pretty big boys on that team. So they're actually in Calgary, I think, or they're out west here this weekend. So I'm really interested to watch them.
Yeah.
But I think Guerin realizes that they're in a dogfight this year, and they need all hands on deck. And he's a huge personality. And I will say this about Revo, I don't know him, but he's been unbelievable in the Las Vegas community. And this is the kind of guy that the Golden Knights, along with Fleury, they really have missed. And maybe it doesn't, not so much on the ice this year with the record, but they miss those kind of guys and the personality and what they bring to the community. And so he's already paying dividends in Minnesota, which is good to see.
I just wanted to bring that up. I was like, oh man, he is such a presence. It's so awesome.
You see him on the news all the time in the summer around Vegas, and you talk about these guys
getting arrested.
No, he's at all he's at all these clubs. He's got his own thing. He's got his own charities that he's building.
Smart.
He's just
smart.
such a good guy. And you know what? It's funny. He's got his own line of beer. And here's a guy that is set up. He's played the game the right way for a long time. People love him. And now he's a guy that gives back in his community. And I expect to see him be a huge part of the Vegas Golden Knights alumni when he decides that he's had enough playing. And I believe he'll probably live in the Vegas area, at least start out there. That's what it sounds like. But yeah, I mean, he's got 1 assist in 5 or 6 games since he's been there, but he's changed the culture of the team.
Yep.
So you need guys like that, right?
Absolutely. It's huge.
Yeah. So, and
huge.
just was going to finish with Boston. Lost in a shootout to Vegas the other night. So they call that their first home loss. They don't really call it a shootout. I mean, that's a skills competition. They just lost it. Yeah. And to me, they're still undefeated at home regulation. Anyways, 15-0-1. Dallas quietly having a great year. Carolina's sneaking back up. Winnipeg's there. Hey, let me ask you, if you were, before we go, there's a little skill testing question here, but if I was to ask you, and you might know this answer because we talked the other day, but plus minus is a big stat. This point in the season, Boston's played about 25 games. What do you think their plus minus is, like plus goals for?
I have it in my phone someplace. You told me it's pretty insanely high.
Yeah,
like
it's plus
25.
Plus 44 it's right around plus 44, plus 45
as a team.
As a team to this point in the season. So that just goes to show you like how good they've been. New Jersey, who won 14 in a row or 13 in a row, is plus 26 on the year. It's insane what Boston's done. Vegas is up there too.
Done.
Yeah, in New Jersey. So it's good to see. And don't sleep on Tampa, right? We always say that.
Never sleep on that. The Boston, I think the big sigh of relief was the goaltending's just been good there.
Yeah, I think you could have a sigh of relief on a lot of teams for their goaltending this year. Yeah. Like Vegas, Let's see, Seattle,
Mhm.
New Jersey would fall into that category.
Jersey.
Let's see who else we
Definitely
got.
St. Louis with Binnington throwing all his hits.
Well, I mean, it hasn't. Yeah, that's got to work itself out. But I think.
I think Montreal, even Montreal's goaltending's been better than what they thought it was going to be.
Toronto, right?
Toronto,
So,
definitely.
I mean, and we didn't even talk about Pittsburgh or
Florida.
Toronto today. Florida. The thing is with Florida is they should play in the Western Conference because their
Why not?
defense is not always the best. Well,
They
because
can
Columbus
replace Columbus.
Columbus is in the Western Conference, right? So, yeah. So, we don't have a lot, but there is going to be a lot to talk about next couple of weeks, and we will. I got to make some phone calls, and we got to get some people calling us back to come on. But
sometimes, sorry, we just have a guest, and then at the last moment they go MIA on us. So that's why we don't advertise who the guest is going to be, because people we know are flakes.
Well, and I put a background in this week because we had to jazz it up, and I got my Christmas mug here too.
Oh, look at you! Are you having a good time with your mom?
Yeah, we're having a great time. We've tried to drop stuff off at the Salvation Army. This will be our third day in a row because we don't read very well. Sunday, okay, we took a chance.
Oh, you haven't been able to do it.
Haven't been able to do it. Yesterday, which is Monday, I was like, hey, let's go, Mom, before they close at 4:30. Go to the back door, it's locked. Hey, we're closed Sunday and Monday. I'm like, well, I guess I could have seen that on Sunday. So big day today. We got my brother coming over for dinner tonight. So we'll
say hi to Douglas for me.
I will.
Do you have any shout outs this week?
Why don't you start off? I'm sure I got some, but I'm up in the Great White North.
One of them, I'm pretty sure we both want to give a shout out to the Durgish family. So do you want to take that one?
Yeah, well, okay. So Jimmy Durgish, who I used to work with, his boy Jack led his team to victory, championship, and most valuable player in the tournament last Thanksgiving weekend in Vegas. And of course, Jimmy is a big fan of the show, so we got to get him a shout out, along with the Cadillac, the biggest St. Louis Blues fan we know. Another buddy of mine I used to fly with. They've all moved on from me now. They're bigger and better, but their kids, specifically Jack, had a great weekend. They got a really nice little team down there in the OC, Orange County, down by Irvine, and so good for Jack. Congrats to the team. And Jimmy's about 6'5". Jimmy's tall guy.
Jimmy's 6'5", thin build, and we talk about it. Jack is built for today's NHL. Yeah. If that kid turns into Jimmy and he keeps playing the way it is, we're all going to be going to games for free.
Yeah. So
not with Jimmy though, because he went down to that tournament and picked up COVID.
Oh, did he? He get the Rona? Hey, I will say this about minor hockey and watching Jack play. I've seen him on video, haven't watched him in person, but watching him skate. The skating of these young kids, the boys and the girls growing up now, is insane. These kids are such good athletes. I just wish, I look back like when you and I grew up, and I mean, I was lucky. I played in some great teams, but our style of hockey back then was dump it in, go run the other guy through the boards, get it off the glass and out, which is still not a bad way to play. But the European influence has skating and puck possession. And the biggest reason is our friend Marco Sturm told us, is because the rinks are so much bigger over there. They're 200 by 100, 200 long, 100 wide, whereas our rinks are 200 by 85. So it lends itself to a lot more puck possession, and you better know how to skate. So it's good to see all these young kids coming in, and congrats.
We were talking about how tall Jimmy is and how tall Jack is. And I went over and was hanging out with Jack, and we're shooting pucks. And I was really impressed on being his age. I think he's like 9 or 10, and he may have been like 8 at the time. His coordination and his stick handling, it was stupid. And, the kid's running around the house on a pair of rollerblades, so he doesn't need any room to do anything, because that's all he does all day is ride around on his rollerblades. But the coordination is just insane at that. Like, I couldn't put on one skate until I was like 14 or something like that. I had to have my dad help me. That's how my coordination was just horrible. So yeah, it's impressive, these kids. But at the same time, let them be kids. right?
Well, and if you look again, we talked about this a million times, but the resources that, first of all, his mom and dad are able to provide a right for them. But if you look at it, you go, well, the game, like here's a kid that's in Southern California, and there's a ton of them. Colin Delia is from Rancho Cucamonga last night, the goaltender for the Vancouver Canucks, who ended up winning.
Right.
So with Gretz going down to LA and then Anaheim, and then, I know Phoenix is kind of a sore spot for a lot of people, but their minor hockey program over there is crazy. You're going to see an influx of kids from these bigger centers that have the access to the ice or the other stuff off the ice. It's
great that hockey for everything, for hockey is for everyone thing is working out. Your highest scorer in the league in Dallas is, a Filipino kid from Southern California.
Well, and we talk about the influx of the European player, and in Canada, it's always been kind of everyone holds it close. Hockey's our game, but the fact is you're right. Hockey's for everyone. Look at how much, and when you diversify the league like it is diversifying now, and you get these kids from these communities that go, hey, you know what? I'd like to give it a try. And they go on, and you get a Jason Robertson. You'll get a kid like Demko's a California kid too. Austin Matthews, Phoenix. You have these young kids, but then you still have the kids from like Ethan Bear the other night. He's from Saskatchewan, and he's from. They did a really nice piece on him on After Hours. So it's trying to grow the game and. Yeah, I mean, everyone's like, oh, Anaheim, or, Phoenix, or Arizona. But the thing is we need to grow our game. We need to push the edges out. And we need to do that. I think what happened is Hockey Canada, we always were a step ahead. But then the Europeans started catching up. Now the States is catching up. So we've got to keep trying to push the edges out. The game, I mean, look at these games. They're crazy. And it's because of the development in these other non-traditional hockey markets, right? So
I think you're right. I just, I think Canada has to be not scared to add pieces to the game. Yeah, we're great, but don't worry about adding pieces to make it look better and stealing ideas from Europe, stealing ideas from America. That's what makes the World Cup's better when Canada's in it. It doesn't have to be Italy all the time. So,
well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, the World Cup, we had Canada and the States in it this year. That's huge, right? For both countries, but for North America as a whole. And but look at the pro hockey. Look at how that we have to grow it. We have to push out the edges. And here's a little. This is my Christmas wish, right? To all our Canadian friends, fellow Canadians, please just enjoy the World Juniors this year. Like, I feel like I have to make like an announcement because I just already feel bad.
I feel like you're talking to your mom.
Oh, you should have heard Mom last night. She was losing out the Canucks. But people are invested. But with the World Juniors, let's just let them play. They're going to be good. They got Bedard. They're going to have a couple other kids that are going to show up.
Will be there.
Wright's going to be there. There's a chance that Gunther I don't know if they'll give him Gunther from the Coyotes, but these guys are going to be really good.
Great
so,
name,
and
Gunther.
I think back to what Matt said last week, it's just a game. And sometimes we got to pull ourselves back and enjoy it. So to everybody who's pulling for the Canadian team in the World Juniors, just enjoy it. The chances of them getting to the semifinals are really good. Just let it all happen.
Let it all hang out.
You know what? Might be their year.
This is supposed to be 20 minutes, but we're going on. I'm going to do my shout out real quick. My shout out is seeing how you're in Terrace. It's a shout out for Terrace. There's a teacher in Terrace named Mr. Chen Wing. He taught biology 11 and 12 and 10 at Caledonia Senior Secondary. I think he may have been close to 100 years old, but he passed away last week or the week before. But I loved him. He had the driest sense of humor. He cared about the community. He loved teaching, and he loved his school. It's something that I think that I took away from him is to invest yourself in things. So he also taught me to laugh at yourself. He used to catch me doing impressions of him all the time. and he would never laugh. He would never laugh, but then he would chirp me in class. And one of my favorite things was when I first went into the school, I was wearing a hockey jacket in class, and he said to me, "Oh, Ian Bagg, you play hockey?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do you know Richard Lindstrom?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You'll fail." I was like, "What?"
Big Rich. Hey,
Yeah.
can you do you want to do a little pay a little tribute and do your when you used to impersonate Mr.
Mr. Chen Wing.
He was something else.
He sounded like a little bit like Ray Romano. It was like I can't. It's kind of he used to tell this story about every year in Canada, 90,000 men lose their testicles. 90% of those men are male men. He used to do jokes like that.
Yeah.
Postman, he'd lose his testicles to post from the dogs, and then he could explain it. But good for him. A great family. Thanks a lot, Mr. Chen Wing, for shaping the town.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just share on that shout out. People like that are the glue of your community, and there isn't anybody that went through high school when Ian and I went through, and before and after, when Mr. Chen Wing was there, that didn't know of him or didn't appreciate what he brought. And let him know you're there. That's what Busky always used to say on the ice. Let him know you're there. Well, Mr. Chen Wing let us all know he was there, and the community is better for it. So
I'll give another Busky quote before we leave. Good luck and
I'll give another love to all after that. Love to all.